A new massive survey of scientific large language models. How LLMs are used in science. So there is 94 pages and it cannot be done justice in one video, but this video is mainly to inspire you and to teach you about this so you look into this yourself. The paper argues that the future of AI in science isn't just about bigger models, but about a deeper coevolution between the AI systems and the scientific data they are built on. Yes, you can build LLMs that are more adapted, have tokenizers and data adapted to scientific discovery. So they would be better for science. LLMs are very sensitive to the type of data and the training they've been exposed to. It reframes the entire field through a data-centric lens, moving from the foundational data that models learn from to the advanced AI agents that will one day conduct research. So all the way from data to agents and everything in between. Part 1, the foundations, a new way to think about scientific data and knowledge. Before diving into the models, the paper establishes two crucial frameworks for organizing the complex world of scientific information. Finding 1, a unified taxonomy of scientific data. The authors argue that scientific data is far more complex than the text and images general-purpose LLMs are trained on. They propose a taxonomy to classify this data, highlighting the unique challenges each type presents. Textual formats. This is the bedrock, including everything from scientific papers and textbooks, arXiv, PubMed, to lab notebooks and experimental protocols. Visual data. This is a vast category spanning multiple scales and modalities. Instrumental imaging, capturing physical reality from the atomic scale electron microscopy to the cosmic Hubble telescope images. Medical imaging, specialized formats like DCOM and these others for X-ray, MRI, and CT scans. Diagrams and plots, abstract representations of concepts like molecular structure diagrams, circuit schematics, and data plots, which are crucial for scientific communication. Symbolic representations, this is the language of science itself. So for molecules, we have strings like SMILES, CC0 for ethanol, or selfies that encode molecular structures. Crystals, CIF files that describe the 3D atomic arrangements in materials. Equations, mathematical formulas that represent physical laws. Structured data, organized data in databases, tables, and knowledge graphs, like for materials or genes. Time series data like EEG, brain signals, gravitational waves, weather measurements. And this other type of weird data that I don't understand, like DNA, RNA, protein stuff, and etc. Key takeaway, Sci LLMs must be able to speak all these languages, not just English. They need to understand the syntax of the SMILES string, the spatial logic of the CIF file, and the meaning of peaks in a spectral plot. Finding 2, a hierarchical model of scientific knowledge. And by the way, as I said, LLMs are highly dependent on the way of training them. We can create tokenizers, specific tokenizers for all of these. And so they understand EEG, understand DNA, RNA, and then train them on that data. All of the LLMs right now, GPT-5, Grok, this, that, they look similar, but they're actually just similar because they're trained in the exact same way. But LLMs can be trained in completely different ways to be completely different. So the paper says that scientific knowledge isn't a flat dataset database of facts. It's a hierarchy where information is progressively transformed into deeper understanding. This framework, inspired by the DIKW pyramid, at the bottom you have data, then information, then knowledge, then wisdom. So their framework is based on that pyramid, and it helps to explain what we expect AI to do. The paper has 5-level knowledge hierarchy. Factual level, raw objective data from experiments and observations. Image, DNA sequence, temperature readings. A theoretical level, The laws, principles, and models that explain the facts, like Newton's law, theory of relativity, central dogma of biology, etc. Methodological and technological level. The tools and procedures used to get from facts to theories, for example, CRISPR-Cas9, experimental protocols, statistical methods, machine learning algorithms. Modeling and simulation level. Use computational models to simulate reality, test hypotheses, and make predictions. For example, climate models, molecular dynamics simulations. Insight level, the highest level representing true scientific discovery and breakthroughs, often by connecting disparate fields or identifying anomalies. Example, connecting information theory to biology to create bioinformatics. Key takeaway, a truly intelligent scientific LLM must operate across all these levels. It should be able to process raw factual data, reason with theoretical models, understand the methodology behind the data, run simulations, and ultimately help generate novel insights. Part 2. The landscape of scientific LLMs and their data diet. The survey provides a panoramic view of existing Sci LLMs by analyzing over 270 training datasets and 190 evaluation benchmarks. Different architectures of these scientific LLMs were with transfer learning, this is evolution. So in the beginning, transfer learning, then scaling, so models like Galactica, then instruction following, models like Llama Gene for biology, and agentic science, which is the latest evolution. Agents that are developed to autonomously use tools, plan experiments, and perform research. So the secret sauce is not the architecture. You can use Llama, Quen, Mistral. The secret sauce is the specialized data used for continued pre-training and instruction fine-tuning. Because in the beginning, in the pre-training, these models, they just learn generally about the world and language. And then you can use other scientific data for continued pre-training. There are some issues in creating these models. For example, when model is trained on clean simulation data, it can struggle on the messy, noisy real-world data, like with physics simulations. Some bottlenecks for these scientific LLMs are scarcity of experimental high-quality AI-ready data. So there is over-reliance on text and simulations. This is maybe a research topic on how to generate this scientific data more and easier. The text modality bias. Science is multimodal, but our data is mostly text. Models learn about experiments from the text and not from the experiments themselves. Also, data is the static knowledge. It doesn't capture evolving experiments and hypotheses and how science evolves. So LLM struggles to learn that. They just learn kind of facts inside of the data, text data. Data latency, so when some new discovery is invented, there is some time for this discovery to end up in the training data for the LLMs. So LLMs training data is always lagging behind the real world cutting edge science that it's intended to be used for. And then most scientific data and papers are not formatted in AI ready way. So there is a perfect way to format something for an LLM. Every file, it has its own perfect way, which we need to figure out how to convert human readable files to perfect LLM files. But there are ways to overcome all of these issues with scientific agent. AI can be used to rewrite data, to collect new data, etc. And agents can also be used in the research, like plan, use tools, collaborate, self-evolve. For example, there can be multiple agents: principal investigator, data analyst, experimentalist. We went through a lot of these subtitles here: taxonomy, hierarchy, key challenges. So you can dive deeper here. You can also learn more how LLMs are used in different fields like chemistry, physics, etc. I think it's really good idea to train LLMs specifically for science from scratch, because they will be different than these LLMs But also, there is this thing called the bitter lesson. It means that just giving LLMs more compute and making in more data makes them better than specifically training it for science or some specific like clever trick, which is sometimes true, sometimes not true. So I'm not sure if making just LLMs bigger with more compute, general LLMs will perform better or worse than LLMs made for scientific discovery. But maybe if we use same amount of compute on scientific LLMs as in general LLMs, maybe then scientific LLMs will be better for science.